John,
There I am. Sorry, I completely forgot about it. Biden
yeah,
got
that's
announced, and my mind went south.
yeah, no, seriously, that's really good news. Really darn good news.
Oh,
I'm,
it's
I'm,
amazing news, and
yeah,
yeah, I was just sending all my uh, all my Facebook and tweets and everything out, and I just
yeah.
completely forgot about it. Sorry. And then
So,
I realized my computer was the battery was dead. Battery was unplugged in a different room. I had to come out
yeah,
here, get it set up.
yeah,
Yeah, and then I looked through email, and of course, your link's not in there because it goes immediate. I just assumed it would be there. It goes immediately to spam. So I had to go back. That's why I asked you to send it
yeah,
again, find it in spam.
yeah.
And I
No
see the
problem.
other one in there. So anyway,
Anyway, so everybody knows you as Martok from Star Trek. You are so much more. You're an awesome actor. You've taught at Cornell, has it? You've taught drama.
not yeah, taught intro to acting to basically it was a non-majors course, but it was a lot of fun because I dealt mainly with engineers and business people and hotel school people that would come out because they wanted to learn how to act. And everybody thinks it's just, well, you do it. Well, no, there are things to learn, and that's what I did. It was interesting. Mainly, I had a lot of fun working with the Asian women because they're in almost always there was an energy that they just dropped down, shot it down to the ground. Their energy was like ultra humility,
Yeah,
and to get their head up and get them putting their energy going up this way was
it's a cultural thing.
yeah, and they had to overcome that to be able to get them to be on stage and project up because this doesn't work as well.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So wow. So of course, I was at this event that I went to with Starfleet International. You were a speaker there, and you were able to go right off the bat and quote a whole Shakespearean soliloquy. I mean, you're classically trained, and you've and so tell me.
Where was this?
I'm sorry. What?
Where was it?
Oh, it was there's this event at the Holiday Inn up near Lansing, where which
Oh
you
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I think you did the monologue of Richard II or something like that.
Probably we are amazed, and thus long have we stood to see the fearful bending of thy knee, because we thought ourselves thy lawful king. And
Yeah,
if we be, how dare thy joints forget to pay their awful duty to our presence? If we be not, so is the hand of God that hath dismissed us from our stewardship. For well we know no hand of blood and bone can grip the sacred handle of our scepter unless he do profane, steal, or usurp. Anyway, it was probably that. But it could
sure.
have been now or never, York. Steal thy fearful thoughts, change misdoubt to resolution. Be that thou hopest to be, or what thou art, resigned to death. It is not worth the enjoying. So,
We have yeah. You have before I get to the Star Trek stuff proper. You're quite the polymath. You're involved in politics. You're involved in environmentalism. You had some great environmental ideas. Did you want to talk about your agenda with that, or?
it is politics, but every time I heard, and will continue to hear, I'm sure, Trump supporters talk about, listen, old Joe had 47 years in Congress as a senator, as a House member, and what did he do? He didn't accomplish anything. Well, that is a straight bunch of bullshit,
Yes.
because the EPA was instituted in 1973 with the National Environmental Policy Act. Biden began in Congress in 1972. So from the beginning of that act, he has been active in getting, you hear Trump say, we have pristine water, we
Yeah.
have pristine air, we have pristine land. And that's the kind of environmentalism I want. I don't want to deal with regulation. Well, how the hell do you think we got there, Mr. Trump?
No,
You
no
you have
shit.
50 years of federal regulations, and I worked in a federal the General Services Administration, a federal agency that was in some ways responsible for environmental policy being instituted in the federal sector, in the public sector. And without those laws, without those legislation, without those acts, we wouldn't have clean air. We wouldn't be able to breathe the air in New York City or in Philadelphia or in, your favorite towns of, what are your favorite towns?
I mean, I literally live in DC. I bypass the EPA offices every single day. And actually, I think it's kind of cool. They're in the biggest federal office building in the district, and it's the William Jefferson Clinton building. It's really beautiful, really
Is
grand.
it right there in the Federal Triangle area?
Yes,
It's right.
yes. It
I know
was
I've seen
built
it.
as the post office department way back in the day, but now it's the EPA. And it also is home to the Interdepartmental Auditorium, where Trump broke another law by having the RNC convention at that auditorium, which is everything that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it has to be nonpartisan if they host it there, and of course he
Wait,
broke a big.
wait. He had the Republican convention in the EPA building?
In the departmental auditorium where the executive branch is supposed to hold. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's astounding. That kind of thing that's the stuff of magical posts. When you come out and say, do you realize where Trump, the ultra anti-environmentalist, the deregulator in chief, held his Republican National Convention, was in the auditorium that's supposed to be used for the Environmental Protection Agency?
Actually, the auditorium is somewhat of a separate entity. It's supposed to be used for all federal stuff, but yeah, it is in the EPA building.
Every federal building, every agency, agriculture, labor, commerce, the Pentagon, everyone has an auditorium for all their big productions and whatnot, all their big conferences.
Yeah, this is look it up, the Andrew Mellon Auditorium. You can look it up online. You can find floor plans. You can find photos of the green room, for God's sakes. And it was established under FDR's administration to provide an interagency departmental, basically for the executive branch, and it was supposed to be non-political as a result. So, but
what's it called?
The Andrew Mellon Auditorium, named after that big rich guy who was treasurer secretary.
Mellon has a few art galleries as well.
Actually, yeah, I'm going there tomorrow, and I went there last Friday. They have a beautiful American art wing. My favorite works are Thomas Cole's Voyage of Life.
Andrew Mellon Auditorium, it comes right up. I don't even know where this is. I'm sure it was there when I was working in 1972 and 3.
If you look at the south front of Federal Triangle, the big pavilion in the center is the Andrew Mellon Auditorium.
I wonder what the address is, if I know where the address is, because I know Washington.
It's Constitution.
Oh, it's on Constitution Avenue. It's down there. Okay.
Still same built physical structure that houses the EPA.
Yeah. Oh, it's the EPA, so it's right behind the White House. Well, that's interesting.
It's not really behind the White House, but it's between the Commerce Department in Ronald Reagan building, which he would really hate have named after him, and
I see it's on Constitution Avenue, and the White House. Let me see. That's the FBI building. Where's the White House? Oh, it's right there. Okay. There's the ellipse. No, that's the Washington Monument. There's the White House. Oh, okay.
The point is that it was established to be nonpartisan, and
never down there. That was the last time I was on Constitution Avenue was for the Women's March. I took my my sister joined me and my daughter to the Women's March against Trump when he was first,
Yeah.
when he was
I went to. I went with I went with 3 friends. All of them were female, and I heard that the Women's March was roughly that ratio, 3 to 1.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Yeah. And I've been very involved with that. I went to Ruth Bader Ginsburg's Lying in Repose and filmed the video. You can find it on my YouTube. What struck me the most about her rulings was her rulings in Olmsted, the Olmsted case, which said that if a person with a disability is at all capable of living outside of institutionalized setting, then they have that right.
Fabulous.
And yeah, it's really that in particular is something I'm very proud of, because in 6th grade I was briefly institutionalized, and I can tell you that just from that very brief week and a half stay, it's not a kind of place we want people to live under any circumstances.
Wow. 6th grade.
I was a different person back then.
That was an important time, 6th grade.
What do you mean? You are best known as the Klingon Chancellor from Martok from Star Trek. Fan polls have listed you above any other Klingon as their favorite Klingon warrior.
Yeah, one of the strangest things that I'm most proud of is that I was sci-fi.com's first place finisher in any Klingon in the history of Star Trek.
Wow.
And I said, and for me, the natural person above me should be Bob Galron, and possibly above him should be Christopher Plummer, as was it Chang, and but so to outpoll those two alone, and Worf, of course, it stunned me. And being not given to self-promotion, I never say anything about it, but I am so freaking proud of that I wish I did.
Yeah, and everybody knows you as Uncle Martok, and there are these hilarious memes. So I mean, Martok is like big into meme culture, and there's one meme is Car Talk with Martok, where Martok gives auto advice, and except he gives it to like hapless Starfleet members like O'Brien and stuff like that.
Right, the engineer. Yeah. I love that. I love it. I loved Car Talk when it was on. Did you listen to that show?
No, I've listened to a little bit of other audio thing. I'm not the big fan of car talk shows, but surprise it or not, I've learned some useful things from home improvement podcasts.
Well, there you go. Yeah, of course. That's exactly what it was. But it was funny. Also, a guy my old computer, a guy makes decals, and he made this decal, and he showed it to me at convention. I said, "Oh, can I have one of those, please?" It's
awesome.
It's
what would Martok do?
What Martok do, yeah.
Great. So you've done some other cool roles, and you're also into imitating Mark Twain. You ran a campaign as Mark Twain, I believe.
Yes, I ran for Congress against Tom Reed, who just got elected again. The son of a bitch. He just got elected. He beat Tracy Matrano, and I know she didn't have a chance, because if anybody was going to beat Tom Reed, it was going to be me. But I was unfortunate in the fact that I had so many other things going on. I didn't spend enough time or money organizing because there's 11 counties in my district. And despite my campaign philosophy, which was, politicians are like diapers. They need to be changed frequently. And for the same reason. I thought it was brilliant. And there people said I'm too old to run. I'm only 184. And And yeah, some people say, well, a dead man shouldn't be running. Well, the problem with that is that certainly if dead men can vote all the time, so they can certainly run for office. Anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean,
And I didn't get very far, but I had fun.
yeah, it's kind of strange. And Ithaca is consistently ranked as the most liberal city in the country, and yet it has a Republican representative.
Is that,
That's gerrymandered the hell.
wait a minute. Ithaca has a Republican representative. Oh, you mean
Tom Reed.
Tom Reed? Yeah, Tom Reed. He's the problem is Ithaca is an outlier because Tompkins County is a blue county, but there are 10 other very red counties in this district. And that's the problem. See, the last time we had a Democrat was before gerrymandering. Exactly right. Maurice Hinchey. And when he resigned or retired, it became available, but it was at the same time they changed the district. Yeah.
So the things that if you just leave, it's not even Tompkins County isn't necessarily a blue county. Dude, I can't drive, right? So I spent 6 years going to that hellhole that is Tompkins Cortland Community College, and then I got the heck out of there and I went to a real school. But the thing is that I'm sorry, but it's really it's a bunch of red voters and a bunch of bullies who make a lot of time there. And when I was riding the bus out there, you would see the Trump voters riding the bus.
How long did the bus take to get out there?
Oh, geez, it took like 45 minutes or something.
From Lansing.
And that was devotion to graduating the class. I have a view that many people may not like, but I think that community college, aside from like nursing and dude, we need full college for criminal justice programs in this country. In Europe, they have like 8 years training or something like that. Here, you complete a couple semesters and you're considered trained in criminal justice. But point is, if you're not going to like nursing, then community college is only good for one thing, really, which is to get onto a full 4-year college and make something of yourself. I've met people at 2-year schools who are in the radio program, and they're like, I'm going to be an awesome DJ. And I'm like, that's not how that works.
That's not how it works, no. Yeah, that's my daughter has a tremendous, a really good voice. But she's not going to do anything with it. She's interested in evolutionary biology, and I say, oh, don't waste your time in science. Come on, be an artist. And she doesn't listen to me, fortunately. She's at Vassar, and she's doing real well there, and she graduates this year. And then what? I don't know. But what was I going to say? Something about the only experience I had in a community college was when I was a very young man living in D.C. Actually, a friend of mine asked me if I could put together a crew to run a production at the Montgomery Community College, which was a 2-year college, may still be. If I could accrue to run backstage for the giant production of Kismet. The leading actor was a fellow named Richard Bauer, who was a star. Do you know Washington?
Washington's geography.
D.C. Do you know where the arena stage is? The arena stage doesn't matter where it is, really. It is one of the best repertory theaters in the country. They have a rotating rep, which means they have a resident theater company. And Richard Bauer was one of the greats that was there for many years. He was playing, I am Brazier, I am the evil vizier of in Kismet. At any rate, beginning of the second act, the curtains have to open. And they open in this giant stage because community theaters for somehow got a lot of money to build enormous theaters along the line. And I said, yes, I can do that. So I got this group together and we went out and we had to open up that giant curtain in a hurry. It was on, a pulley system, but it was
winches,
massive. Yeah, what?
Winches.
No winches. They were
Oh.
pulleys that you basically had to just pull them because it was not mechanized with a winch. It should have been. And it may have been after our experience. But as we got the cue, we're starting to do the things. Somehow the entire apparatus from above came crashing down on the stage. Everything fell. Probably 1,000, 2,000 pounds of steel and curtain. And the entire company was on stage, standing in a pose, waiting for the curtains to open to reveal them. That curtain and apparatus, the steel tracks, everything fell to the stage floor, and the dust went, and everybody standing on stage, it missed everybody on stage. Oh, thank God. But there was a moment, and then all of my crew and myself went scurrying out onto the stage among the frozen Persian flying carpet people standing out there in Kismet, and yanked that curtain and apparatus off stage right as fast as possible.
I was seeing Spam-A-Lot on Broadway, and a scene near the beginning, the actors are supposed to walk off stage. Well, one of their boots caught in the curtain and actually tore the curtain down. It was only a small portion, though. They didn't have a big fat, 1,000-pound whatever. It was just a small portion, and it was fixed by the next intermission.
Oh my Lord, on Broadway?
Yeah, it was a minor thing compared to what you're talking about. Yeah.
But still, those are union people, both walking off stage and pulling the curtain. That didn't happen.
I like, especially like small not small productions, but small stage shows. Like, everybody in the Midwest is like, let's go to the arena and see Blue Man Group. I'm like, you're not getting it. It was started in the Village, and it was supposed to be a small, intimate setting. You're supposed to, and like Rent was supposed to be a small stage. And I have the movie somewhere. It was given to me as a gift, but I can't bring myself to watch the movie Rent because it's supposed to be an intimate, personable kind of thing,
Yeah, I saw JC Superstar first in 1970 at Gettysburg College. It was a production that was put on by students with professorial advisement, and they put it on in the chapel for the college. And there were so many people in that chapel, in that church. Looked like somebody had taken the roof off and poured people in there because they were sitting in all the big giant window wells and standing in them and dripping everywhere, people. And the production, I can tell you this day, what Judas was wearing, what Jesus was wearing, what who is this broke Pontius Pilate was wearing, and it was a magnificent production. They had a rock and roll band playing the music. The music they had taken off the album because it had not opened in this country yet.
Oh, wow.
They took it off the album, transposed it to written music, and provided the music. It was an incredible, unforgettable experience of mine in the theater. And then years later, I went to see a Broadway touring production of it, and it was so lavish and so produced, I couldn't stand it. There
Yeah.
was nothing. It had no heart. This
You may,
production,
yeah, that's good. Yeah. You may want to reproduce position a little bit. You're a bit dark. Does the
oh,
light go out or something?
there you
There,
go.
that's better. That's better.
No, I turned this
Yeah.
screen a little.
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to figure out, see that sun back there? There's,
Ah,
yeah, I can't do it.
great.
I can't
Yeah.
get rid of that sun bursting through.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm sorry I missed this Zoom thing, but are you recording it?
Yes, I am. I'll take off that bit at the front. But
No, no, no.
so I have a few questions from
Yeah.
fans. Let's see. First of all, my question, not theirs. What's your opinion of Tribbles?
I viscerally detest them as Martok, and I can't stand them as JG. It was an awful idea. I thought they are disgusting and ridiculous, and they should be in a children's show somewhere, but certainly not on Star Trek. I don't know how that got through.
Well, interestingly, I'm kind of sort of connected with their creator on Facebook, and he'd have interesting points of view at that.
Who?
So,
You mean Roddenberry?
David Gerald, I think.
Oh, David is brilliant. David's
Yeah.
brilliant. I don't know why he did that, because I think he's brilliant. I've sat next to him on many panels and we've talked, and he's written so many books. But you know, and that to have that as his unforgettable legacy on Star Trek is ridiculous, because I can't stand him.
Here's the thing that people have to remember about the original series. So people are saying they don't like Discovery because it doesn't look exactly like the original series. And I'm like, listen, the original series was using plywood and string as set devices, and they were using the B-list cast-offs from police dramas that Roddenberry had failed at as cast members. And the point is, the budget was shot. It was ridiculous, and I don't think that it's reasonable to expect Discovery to look exactly like the original series.
No, that just goes to show you, it's not about, for me, the success or failure of anything is not the look of it. It's the stories.
Yeah.
And if your storytelling is incredible, as Gene Roddenberry, Gene had an amazing gift of telling stories that capture both the heart and the soul of a viewer, of a reader. And it wasn't the production values that made Star Trek famous.
No.
And I'm not a fan of Discovery either. I'm not a fan of Discovery or Picard. In fact, I'm more of a fan of Discovery, except what they've done to Klingons. Klingons are not right. They need to fix that, but they won't. But the storytelling in Picard is unconscionably bad, in my opinion. And my opinion is worth just what the words spell out. My opinion, that's it.
I haven't seen Picard yet. I like what I've seen of Discovery so far, but I can understand how someone who's worked in another era of the show before things changed radically could have,
No, it's not. It's the storytelling. Story is all that's important to me. There's so many wonderful actors. There's so many wonderful actors. And I think there's increasingly a wonderful supply of great writing. But for Picard, the storytelling, the story editing, what's the word I'm looking for? It was run by Michael Chambon for a while, Chabon. And he's a brilliant writer as a novelist. But in my opinion, he's not a great writer or a story editor a showrunner, whatever he did. I think he did everything, but he didn't do it the next year. I'm going to try to find, for your listening pleasure, I'm going to go off here for just a second.
Good.
But you should still be able to hear me. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I want to do, oh, I don't need that either. I need this. Here we are. All right. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Here, try this.
Just so long as we don't get in trouble for like intellectual property, you know. I can't post stuff that has someone else's intellectual, you know.
Intellectual property. Well, there's nothing intellectual about Picard, so that's my problem. All right.
You hit it here first.
Okay, here we are. This is my GarageBand recording. This should work. Okay, let me hit play. New version. I don't want that. I just want to play it. I gotta get it all the way back though. Here we are. I won't treat the whole thing for it. Well, I can if you want to, but here it is.
Shorter is better, so you know, for this.
No, that's not right. Let me go back. Come on, back to the end. You were talking. Oh, okay.
This is C. Braxton Monsieur, Dateline Hollywood. Tonight, it's all about Picard. I'm watching it again to see if there's any way I can follow what the hell each scene is about. So far, I have failed miserably. Besides the inimitable Sir Patrick Stewart himself, the only character I really understand is Elnor, and he has practically nothing to say. The puzzling blonde scientist who killed Bruce Maddox, whoever he was, is simply a complete mystery. And now suddenly Gonbadon versus the sister, who releases the dreaded Chekhalagu, whatever the hell they are, involving some legend that sounds like a futuristic shofar that comes out of nowhere to explain the need to stop the androids from killing everything. And who the hell is their beloved Saga? You know, Saga, who delivers a deus ex machina in the form of a blue shiny claw that does things as long as you wear and click together your red slippers to imagine something like a storyline. That blonde just freed Picard and Kleiner, then quickly views Spiner TV where she sees an upcoming biocidal event. But the androids are like children to Picard, who cannot see them dead. Rios, the pilot, flies a very nice spaceship that looks a lot like the Millennium Falcon. Or is it the Maltese Falcon? Either way, there goes Elnor, a tremendous warrior with an even better stuntman. Soji just pulled some kind of hand grenade out of the ether. Oh, wait. Seven just pulled a gun on Nonek's sister, lover. Wow.
I think we got to stop this now just to make sure it's not,
into frame. Time to release the flowers. Meanwhile, Seven is fighting the evil Nonek sister, whom she just threw off.
There you go.
Yeah, but you know, something about British comedy that we don't have in this country, you know.
My review, you mean?
Oh, that's your review? Yeah.
It's talking, yeah.
Yeah, I figured as much. It was just, you know, I love the style. So I have a question that I ask everybody who I interview, and then we'll get to some audience questions. What are your points of view on getting people with disabilities involved in the entertainment industry? We being people with disabilities are set designers and puppet makers and writers and artists, and we can do a lot of things, but we can do anything really, but the thing is that they're not hiring us. What are your points of view on getting us out there in the entertainment industry?
Well, I think you're on your own, brother, because it's hard for everybody. Now, here's the deal. There's no reason why a director can't hire somebody who is physically disabled to do a role, and let's say, even if he has to sword fight. There's no reason why physical disability would be a problem. So it shouldn't be. However, it's freaking impossible to have a career in the business of show business. It's hard, and it's hard for everybody. And it shouldn't be any harder for a disabled individual, physically or mentally might be a problem, but that shouldn't
So
be.
we need to change the system, it sounds like.
No, that's just the nature of the system. It's hard. You can't hire everybody to act in a show. For every audition I would audition for in Los Angeles, the average was you get hired 1 out of every 100 auditions. So it's hard. People ask me about doing voiceovers. How I really like to do voiceover. That's what I want to do. I said, well, you've chosen the most difficult thing there is, because every famous actor also wants to do voiceovers.
Yeah.
And they want to be, and the people that produce the voiceovers want to rub elbows with,
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill. Yeah, Mark Hamill, or the guy who did Dances with Wolves, and anybody, they all, because it's easy. They have the voice, they have the reputation, and they're reading the script. So it's not hard, but therefore it is impossible to get hired in a voiceover. I hate to pour water on anybody's ambition to be a voiceover artist, but everybody in Hollywood and outside of Hollywood wants to do it.
But the goal is to build that career with, especially you would think like Tim Curry has become a hell of a voiceover artist since his stroke, because he can't physically act anymore. And so so you're saying that part of the problem is that people are looking for known names.
Yeah,
people
because
who
they want to work with
are
Tim
famous
Curry.
already.
They want to work with Tim Curry rather than Alec Frazier,
Yeah.
They want to work, they have to make a choice, even though you might be incredible. It's Tim Curry, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
That's
doubly hard.
So that actually says to me that it is precisely a systemic problem, that we need to, that the system is gamed and rigged in favor of people who have already been known for a bazillion years. And that is why I know that some efforts to get disabled actors hired have actually involved, for example, financial incentives to hiring them, and also partnerships. If you know what an inclusion rider is, right?
No, I don't. What is it?
I'm seeing your chest right now. Might want to fix the camera.
I'm trying to get out of the sun because it's away.
So basically, there is this thing in Hollywood where people have signed into their contract that people must hire certain minorities in order for them to consider a part. So
well, that's an affirmative action program, and I believe in affirmative action.
Good, yeah, and that's pretty precisely what so forever now, since the 90s at least, people have been in favor of, for example, getting African Americans included in inclusion riders. Well, now we're only just starting to hear about disabled people. I mean, in everything, the disabled population has been the last population approached. You look at, I mean, I'm interviewing Anthony Rapp on Monday, and he is gay as the dickens, and we all love him for it, to be fair, I am too, but and now we're approaching a world where that's no longer so much of a barrier with acting.
Well, it's never been a barrier in acting, in theater, television, and film. In my opinion, you might have some ultra right-wing producers in the old days, in the 40s, 50s, and maybe into the 60s. But most of Hollywood is gay, in my opinion. So, when I first got an agent, I said I wanted to use the name Noah Hertzler because that was my grandfather's name. And my agent, Michael Bloom, who was one of the biggest agents at the time in Hollywood, said, well, nobody will think you speak English if you go as Noah Hertzler, and they'll think you're a Nazi. And I said, why? Because there's a huge prejudice against Germans, believe it or not, in Hollywood. And I said, well, that's ridiculous. I mean, I grew up in a military family. So it was a meritocracy. There was no, to my knowledge, there was no prejudice given towards anything except doing your job. And so I'm a strange bird that way. I believe in affirmative action, but being gay, LGBTQ, is not really the foremost affirmative action program needed.
It's not the foremost hindrance to acting, you would say.
I don't think so, because I've spent my life in the theater. At least half my friends are gay.
Right.
So,
I mean, you know, when I was going to college, we would hold the gay alliance meetings, and then afterwards, half of the room would leave early to go to their theater rehearsals. You know.
Right, of course. That's just the way it is. I don't know why, but that somehow it's a welcoming place for theater, that people who want to express themselves, and for the assholes who have some sort of bone to pick with LGBTQ. I mean, we just got rid of one major one.
Yeah.
Trump was just defeated. So
yeah.
He was an inspiration to all those people who hate. And hopefully.
Okay, so I keep on pushing these back, but listen, there is a visible contingent. I'm no longer a part of Starfleet International, that group you spoke for when I first met you, because a lot of them are like people who believe that Star Trek is militarist. Please, Gene Roddenberry was a humanist socialist. You know, I mean, you know, Star Trek has always been utopian. There's that classic example, Let This Be Your Last Battlefield, which was a huge parable against racism. One character was half white on one side, black on the other. He kept on spending thousands of years hunting a character who's half black on one side, half white on the other. And that was one of the biggest parables about racism. Nichelle Nichols, I actually have a business endorsement from her. She is a goddess of tolerance. What do you say to all of these so-called Star Trek fans who just don't get it and think it's all about militarism and right-wing tomfoolery? You know,
it's not about any of that, because Gene Roddenberry was probably one of the most dedicated writers in Hollywood to break the color barriers, to break the LGBTQ barriers, to break prejudices of all kinds. He would write about it in a science fiction context that maybe if somebody was a viewer of Star Trek and was also an intellectual dolt, they wouldn't see it, they wouldn't get it. But anybody who understands the battles that people have to fight throughout their lives because of one difference or another, got it immediately. And that's why the storytelling of Star Trek has lasted for over 50 years now. What other show in Hollywood can claim
it's in the Guinness Book for that, actually.
Absolutely.
You know, Martin Luther King said to Nichelle Nichols, "This is the only show that my wife and I will allow our kids to watch because
right?
and Whoopi Goldberg was a kid back when she was still Karen Johnson. She was a kid, and she turned on the TV and she said, Mama, there's a black lady on TV and she ain't no maid."
Wow. Yeah, and she ain't no maid. Yeah. Wow, that's a great story.
Yeah, and of course that's why she became Guinan, because she loved it so much afterwards.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about Nichelle Nichols, though. Nichelle Nichols was freaking beautiful as a young woman.
Oh yeah,
she's still majestic, but as a she was beautiful. And my better half, who suffers from MS now, but when she was a child, she saw Nichelle Nichols on TV and she fell in love. And the next thing her dad, I guess, caught her putting shoe polish on her arms as she watched, because she wanted to be as beautiful as Nichelle Nichols. And she was trying to cover her white skin with brown skin. She is a huge fan of Nichelle, and I've taken at a convention in maybe it was in San Diego, the Comic-Con, that I asked Michelle earlier. I said, "Can you mind if I introduce you to my better half here?" Because she's been such a fan. She said, "Of course, of course."
Yeah.
She was so sweet and so nice to Chevy.
Yeah, I met Nichelle at RockCon in Rochester. So okay, one person asks, you are apparently I haven't watched it yet, but you're apparently involved with Lower Decks. How did that come about?
They just asked me because in the Star Trek world, I'm quote unquote a name. Martok, people know who Martok is. And so they said, well, let's get Martok to do this, to play this nasty character. I said, I'd love to. And that was it. That was, it was great. I had to send in a reading of the lines. And at the same time, I was auditioning for something else with some other voiceover thing, which I did not get. But I was requested, and I've never been requested for anything in my life. So this was a big change, but they liked what I did with the Drukmani, the maniac, and I had fun. And see, I was in college, I was a linebacker, and a linebacker plays football at the edge of insanity. And it's easy to go over the line, but you have to walk that line of controlled insanity. And that's what Klingons are. They're slightly controlled insane. And they operate at the extremes of human behavior. That's where they are. So I fit in nicely with the Drukmani character.
Great. So would you recommend Lower Decks?
Oh, it's brilliant. It's incredibly fast. It's incredibly well written, well produced, and it's more like Star Trek than Star Trek. I think it's fabulous. And who's the Alec McMahon? Is it not Alec? Michael McMahon? Is he one of the producers?
Forgive me, I wouldn't know.
He was one of the producers on something that was not good, which was either Picard or
Discovery.
It was not as good as the writing in Lower Decks. The writing is phenomenal. The acting and the directing is phenomenal. It's incredibly fast. There within one episode of Star Trek, you could probably get the amount of dialogue and the amount of storytelling and the amount of conflict and resolution and new conflict and more in one episode of Lower Decks. Or one episode of Star Trek, the original series, you could probably get 10 episodes of Lower Decks because it's so packed with stuff.
So it's almost embraced itself as almost a reflection of Star Trek itself, you know.
It is a flashback to the original series, I think.
Oh, cool. So another person asks, do you have any involvement with the delayed quote unquote fan production of Star Trek Axanar? And what is your assessment of that, if you know what it is? And
well, I was in the Prelude to Axanar, which was I thought it was impossible, and I read the script, and I said, well, this is a bunch of people sitting around talking about a war that really never happened. How can that possibly work? Richard assured me. She said, well, it's I had done a couple of projects with Richard Hatch, whom I adored. A huge loss when he passed away, when he left the field, man. It's Richard was an extraordinary human being. Extraordinary. He left half of his is it Battlestar? What did he do? What was the big Babylon? Half of his starfighter He left in my backyard in LA for a couple of years. It was a great item of interest in the neighborhood. But he was incredible. I told him though, I said, Richard, not about Axanar, but about the things he was doing. I said, Richard, why are you fighting this? You can't win against lawyers in show business.
No, you can't.
The owners of the property rights on this, on Battlestar and on Babylon 5, you don't have the rights, and you won't be able to acquire the rights unless you're a billionaire. So why even try to do a new series that's based on that series? I couldn't convince him, and he fought like the devil to get it done. Anyway, then when Axanar came up, he's probably one of the best Klingons. If he would have been around and Karn would have remained on the scene for a while, I'm sure he would have passed me as the greatest Klingon ever. He was fabulous.
Yeah. So you think that these fan productions, unfortunately or fortunately, don't have a leg to stand on, you know?
Well, not if they want to. Not most fan productions are not nearly as good as Axanar. Prelude to Axanar was the best fan film that I was ever a part of. And when I walked into, they shot it in the old Charlie Chaplin Studios, I think, on Santa Monica Boulevard. And when I went in there, I knew it wouldn't work because they're just talking heads. I went in there and I saw they had 4 green screen setups. They had the green screens, so 3 cameras, all of which moved. And they had the department heads of Star Trek productions, whether it was Deep Space Nine or Voyager or Next Gen. They had department heads, hair, makeup, costume.
So this was no small labor of love.
It was an amazing production. And I said, wow. I was only there for 2 days. I said, wow, this is something else. And they filled the other positions, not the heads of departments, but the workers were all fans and were all lovers of Star Trek. And as long as you had the department heads that were professionals who had dedicated their lives to doing hair, makeup on film and television, you had the muscle, the workers that were dedicated, but they were as dedicated as they might be. They were either IT producers or, IT workers or, every other job except show business. They hadn't dedicated their life to show business, where the department heads had. They created something that I thought was miraculous. I thought it would never work. And then I saw the finished product with Tobias Richter from Germany doing the sound. Incredible. I was stunned. And I said, wow. And who else was stunned were the lawyers for CBS. And I said, this is better than what we do. We have to stop them. And they did. They worked out finally where they can do 2 more 15 to 20 minute episodics based on a Star Trek situation, but I don't know if that'll ever happen.
So
again, I'm talking to Alec.
Yeah.
Peters,
So,
I'm talking. Alec say, look, stop screwing with Star Trek. Just do a sci-fi. Use all the Star Trek actors, because
that's literally how half the movies are made today. Is, from a fan work they turned into, like this chick flick paranormal thing, Mortal Instruments, started as a Harry Potter.
Wow. Harry Potter fan film.
Yeah. Fan fiction.
Wow.
And, yeah.
Wow.
And you, if you look closely enough, you can see the parallels.
Sure.
So
there's nothing new. There are 7 themes in the history of playwriting and in theater, basically 7 themes. And it's hard to write anything new, but sci-fi is where to go for it. That's for sure. I think it's great. I didn't know that.
So the last thing we're going to go over is any behind the scenes stories. Like you mentioned when you're doing Far Beyond the Stars, that Rene Bergeron, I miss him already, had a bit of an incident with anger, something like that.
No, it was the funniest thing I've ever heard on the stage, on a movie set, TV set, stage. I've never heard it ever out of an actor's mouth before. Far Beyond the Stars was being directed by Avery, and he had just had a scene with Renee. I was sitting off stage, probably eating carrots or something on the in my chair, and I was listening to this argument begin. And they walked off stage, and they came right out to where I was sitting, and Avery was saying, "No, you see, I want to have more angry, more anger, real, visceral, underneath anger." And Renee said, "Well, that's what I did. That's what I did." And Avery was again, "No, you're not understanding. I mean, it needs to be red hot, glowing ember." Anger. You can almost feel the heat. That's what I did. I was angry. I was the height of my anger. He says, "But you're not hearing me. You're not hearing. What I need is the white hot anger. I need white hot. That's what I gave you." No, you just don't understand. He said, I needed to be anger of the heavens, and it can't be solved. And Renee said, "Well, that's my anger. You can't have it." I've never heard an actor ever say anything like that, because an actor's job, and whether it's spoken or not, is to give everything you can from yourself to the story. I've never heard an actor saying, "Well, that's mine. You can't have it." Anyway, that's absolutely true story. And I was sitting right there taking it all in and saying, "This is unforgettable." Anyway.
Yeah, you know,
Avery,
he was a great actor.
Yes, you got to understand that Renee was one of the, if not the greatest farceur on the American stage. I think his brilliance was physical comedy. And he didn't get a chance really to do physical comedy on the show. Nor did he was able to do it on Benson. Wasn't he in Benson as well?
Oh yes, half the Star Trek cast over one period. Dude, Ethan Phillips was on Benson, and
Oh,
you
it was.
know,
I didn't know that.
and Bob Picardo, who I've also interviewed, was on Benson at some point or another. You know.
Well, I have to look at the casting director to find out who that was, because obviously they love Star Trek. But
this was years before those series began. You know.
What do you mean?
Well, Benson ended before Voyager and before Deep Space Nine.
The original series and Next Gen, wasn't Picard?
I think it was ending as Next Gen was starting.
Oh, okay. I wonder if it was Sharon Bialy. I'll find out.
Yep.
IMDb Pro is a wonderful thing. You can find out everything about everything.
So,
anyway,
dude,
yeah.
Where can people find you? What do you want to promote?
I really don't have anything to promote. I'm writing my own autobiography. I'm not sure what it's called. My original title was Klingon, From Linebacker to Klingon in 4,627 Easy Steps. And then I thought I should write, maybe it should be, and then I realized that what I'm writing this for is for my daughter, because I was in the business of show business for 50 years, really, 50 years of life. Not show business life, but 50 years of life before my daughter was born. So this book takes place between 1950 and 1999 when she was born. So I'm trying to tell her why her father is who he is in those 50 years. And because she didn't know me, she hadn't arrived on this planet. And that's the purpose of it. And to share whatever wisdom or stupidity or lessons or things that I've learned through all aspects of my life. So I'm on page about 250, and I've been writing during the pandemic, and it's sort of perfect, although I have so much to do. I have trouble getting back to it, but it's just about done. And then I want to add a lot of pictures, a lot of photographs from the shows. And I was born in Savannah. We moved to Omaha. My dad was in the Air Force. Then a couple of years in El Paso, Texas. Then we moved to Casablanca, Morocco, and we're there for a while. And then to Wiesbaden, Germany, and then back to DC area, Andrews Air Force Base, where Air Force One is based. It's called Joint Base Andrews now. But I didn't get into theater. I was in the federal government for a couple of years before I got into theater. I went to law school, didn't finish because I realized I don't belong here. And then I realized I didn't belong in the federal government. And that's a long story. And then I got into theater and I said, this is where I belong. So, and that was in 1973.
Right. So do you have a website or something?
I don't have a website. Isn't that odd?
Wow, you are a truly genuine person.
I don't have a website.
Yeah. But that's great. Then I will I will add a little header page and a footer thanking you. And this has been all spontaneous conversation for over an hour. Thank you, John. You're absolutely amazing. Thank you for being on this.
So are you, brother. So are you. So great topics to bring up. And you covered a lot of room. So that was great, man. Thank you.
This has been more fun than like almost any of these things. So thank you. Okay.
Live long and prosper.
Peace and long life.